We got VHA VHAC tournament dates,
There you are. I already said that.
2013,
There you are.
and VH stakeholders meeting. So,
Sweet.
where are we gonna start?
Well, you want to start it out with, it's two pieces.
Where is Dave tonight?
He's on vacation.
Really?
He's in the UP,
Really?
experiencing the first frost.
He's
I'm
getting
sure of
cold.
He's
his,
getting snowed on.
current
It's
season.
Is
supposed-
he really?
Well, it's not sticking, but yeah, they're gonna get snow tonight.
So, anyway, but it hasn't snowed here yet, but, and that's why he's up there. So, I think the first thing is the tournaments and giving some direction to the various players, stakeholders for July of 2013. And then the other piece of it is the future stakeholders meeting, and as you saw from what I sent to you, just a bunch of issues that a number of you've talked from time to time, as well as the stakeholders, as well as the park district and the village staff. So anyway, but starting out with the tournaments, as you know, in 2012, we had a discussion back in 2011 to put the Stingers and the Lacrosse America, which for the first time was at VHAC in 2012. And there was, any of you who were there was a lot of cars there. And lacrosse, I think they drew something like 104 teams, a lot of people. So the Stingers have talked to us. They talked to us last year, and certainly a couple of representatives are here. They can speak to you guys about separating and basically having their own weekend, or a weekend that's not as busy as that weekend. And so, just throwing something out to discuss. We talked about, and none of this is ideal except, frankly, for the Stingers, but would be the first weekend of July, the 5th through 7th, is the Cougar Classic. And as noted to me, I've talked to Mark Peterson, he feels from past experience there might be a drop-off of, like, going from 80 teams, somewhere around that number, to 50-plus teams, but by doing that kind of date. Then the lacrosse tournament, going from the third week to the second week, there's a conflict with some other, lacrosse tournament. Chad Gruen, who you've met, he indicated there's something like a loss. I think they had 104. They'd go down to something in the 80s, he thinks. Of course, that's speculation. You don't really know. It might be less than that, might be somewhat more than that. And then the Stingers tournament would be on, I guess you'd say, a weekend traditionally that they've had their tournament in July, the 19th through the 21st.
And how many teams is that?
I think you guys, 50 teams.
82 years ago, we went down last year to 68.
Okay, so 80
Why,
to
why do you think it
68.
went down?
Come on up.
Scott, come on up and.
We need the folks at home to hear you.
Two years ago, my understanding was the first year the lacrosse was brought, or the big lacrosse tournament was here. I think half of it was at Dare Path, the other half was at VHAC, and just crazy congestion. And we do a survey at the end of our tournament every year, and the majority of the negative comments were congestion, parking. They couldn't find parking. They came an hour before when they're supposed to be there. It took them an hour and a half to do what they had to do. So, before lacrosse came, we were at 82 teams. And after the first lacrosse tournament where we had a share, we were down last year to, I think, 62, was it? 67? 68 teams last year. And it's just a matter of, they can go many different places. And if they have to fight the park and fight traffic to get to their games, they're probably going to choose another tournament over ours.
What kind of a fundraiser was this? How did you do? I mean, how do you do as far as raising?
This is we do 3 small fundraisers a year, and this is our largest one.
We usually get between $14,000 to $16,000.
And that's what, from the entrance fees or?
The entrance fees, concessions, then, one of our biggest expenses is umpires. We spend in double digits on umpires.
Screen for the season?
No, for the
that
tournament.
Well, I know, but what do you net then?
For the
Tournament? For
For the tournament, we net about 14,
Okay,
16,000.
yeah, after all expenses?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's,
All right.
our costs, I always tell when I have our team meetings, I tell the parents that our costs are probably the lowest, and any travel softball program within 100 miles because of our fundraising, and that subsidizes a lot.
Yeah, and how many teams do the Stingers enter in this tournament?
We have 8 teams.
8? Okay. So how many, and I don't know these answers. How many, does anybody know what lacrosse, how many lacrosse teams are there from our town, I guess? Does anybody know?
No.
You guys have any idea? I mean,
I think don't hold me to this, I think there was one. Was there
does any,
one or?
another country heard from here? You want to state your name for the record, please?
Mark Rosenstock with
Yeah.
VHCYAA.
How many, do you have
I
any
don't know the
idea?
exact amount, but I think there were more than 30 teams that Lacrosse America had from out of town. That was a big part of their demographic and a big sell when they.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, they had, okay.
They had 104
Do we have any idea how
teams,
many
I think.
local?
Uh,
I mean, from towns in some way, shape, or
Syrup,
form.
I only know one.
Yeah,
Did the high school have a team in it?
the high school did not have a team at this one, to the best of my knowledge.
Yeah, well, is there a local,
There is-
lacrosse league in
There is
town?
local, both Libertyville and
Sure.
Vernon Hills?
Vernon Hills also have lacrosse teams.
Well, who runs that program?
The lacrosse program?
Yeah.
It's run by the Cougars organization.
Oh, okay, is there, okay.
How many,
So how many
of your-
teams are there in
how many of your
that?
teams?
We probably have about 6 teams in lacrosse. I think the quality of the tournament wasn't such because it's a very new sport for us, and we did not have.
You didn't enter people?
We did not enter.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
All right.
So basically 0 Vernon Hills teams in?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, all right, well, all right, and then what about baseball? I mean, how many baseball
Well,
teams?
baseball's very
do we-
much in the same situation. If you don't mind me digressing here,
Yeah, sure.
since it's a stakeholders meeting, if I could explain a little bit about how our structure is.
Yeah.
I'm here representing the organization, VHCYAA.
Yeah.
We also have, similar to Mr. Comator, a commissioner of baseball
Yeah.
who has very much the same issue that the Stingers have with the dates. The one thing we know is that from an economic impact, lacrosse was significant to town. They had a tremendous amount of out-of-town teams. We understand and acknowledge why it's important for the village to have lacrosse and for them to have, the dates that they have, given all the factors that are there. From an organizational standpoint, we're in exactly the same situation with the Stingers and Cougar Baseball. They both want their dates because they are both suffering similar situations. They both are in a situation where if they don't get the priority date, then they're going to have an impact on the amount of teams that are there. Last year, because of another tournament called Firecracker, to the best of my knowledge, that has those traditional 4th of July dates, is the baseball contingent was down about 30%. Sounds sort of very similar to what you had being across Lacrosse America's dates. So organizationally, we haven't really had a chance to have both parties together sitting there and working out and trying to come to some sort of an accommodation on figuring out what dates are who will get what dates. And it's difficult because they're both right. I mean, they both have a significant impact by being over dates that neither of them feel are advantageous.
Yeah, all right. Trustee
May I-
Cook, yeah.
sorry.
you
Well,
wanna-
let me just
All right,
interject
Trustee
something.
Cook.
Personally, from this chair, Lacrosse America ranks 3rd, and it's a distant 3rd, okay? Because the other 2 organizations are community-based organizations throwing these tournaments. So they're an outside entity, and as far as I'm concerned, if they don't like the dates, I'm sorry. I know they bring in money to town, but the main reason for building the VHAC, and that was as an amenity to residents first, and then something else. What I would like to try is that sounds like we sort of have a tentative agreement that baseball could go the first weekend, lacrosse the second, and the Stingers the third, and that would give everybody a separate weekend, and that would give us a chance to see what, how many tournament teams you get and what kind of an impact there is if everybody has their own weekend, and then look at, you know, how we could make some kind of changes the following year. Because I agree, when you put any two of these together, and it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
Well,
I
in
can tell you
the third issue was that weekend it's summer celebration, and that's what, you know, stretched staff pretty good. But Trustee Markwart?
Yeah, as I would say, I'd probably agree to the point of, yes, it's great to have 3 weeks spanned out of it. Question I have is, probably maybe I shouldn't even say it to the point, it is money factor. It costs $240,000 to operate the VHAC. The Cougars have tournament, they don't pay anything. The Stingers have a tournament, they don't pay anything to the village. The Park District has some tournaments that will run back and forth with some of their, and they pay a portion of it. So technically, lacrosse is the only one that will bring money in, and a large amount. Unfortunately, yes, it does run into a problem when you tie one into the other. I do know if we had Cougars play on the 24th, that, excuse me, on the weekend of the 4th, it would jeopardize some of the teams there because it's a holiday time and they won't have it. Take lacrosse and put them to the second week, it would drop off attendance in what they have, and would it affect our bottom line of what we would receive from it? It probably would. If you let the Stingers have the third week, they would be fine with it, and we'd go on. I was trying to take a look at a point that if in fact it could be combined. For an example, the biggest question upon all this is, yes, it's an impact. I thought the village, the staff, the police department honestly handled it extremely well, and I think things went very well. Parking is an issue, but I think it was scattered so much to the point that you couldn't use the Mitsubishi parking lot, then you could. Then the way that it was all carried about, it's a free-for-all for all the parking. If you regulate the parking, there's a possibility of it. It's a suggestion, and my suggestion would be to try to end up blending, let the Cougars play on the second week. If we combined with the Stingers and lacrosse on the third week, but again, it has to be dropped to the point that they get field 5 and 6, their parking areas in the front, parking across, whatever we could, and you eliminate that corner. Because also, if I understand, is that the Stingers play probably 25, out of 14, 4 age groups, they're scattered along from the Park District and into the VHAC. So it's probably only
Did you use the
25%.
township also this year?
Yeah, we had to. You know, part of the discussion we've had last year at the meetings, you know, we kept pleading our case that, you know, we have field 1, field 5, field 6, the varsity field, Vernon Hills High School varsity field, and the Stevenson field across the street. Unfortunately, because of the dynamics of the fields inside the pinwheel, the girls really can't
There's
use.
only one field.
There's only one field the girls
Well,
can use.
Yeah.
So at some point, it would be nice if, you know, we can host our tournament at one location. Just, you know, we talked last year, and we pleaded our case that congestion and it can't.
Can you could do it just at the VHAC?
We could do a majority of it at the VHAC, and we'd still probably need maybe 2 other locations. If,
Well, would you use one of the practice fields over at American Hotel?
probably, I've never seen those fields, actually. I've heard they're not great right now.
It's hard to, yeah, it's a long walk. It's very inconvenient for people. We played there before we were in VAC.
I mean, even if people park at American Hotel? People didn't park there, did they, this year?
We used to park at the high school, you know, had to walk up.
Well, I
that,
understand that part. I'm just saying, you know, I mean, what I'm saying is that, were they even approached it? I thought,
Well, we
You know, again,
arranged
we-
for parking at American Hotel for specifically that tournament, for the lacrosse tournament, but they have some concerns about that, so every tournament would have to stand on its own. We'd have
There, you know, there were a lot of things talked about last year. We knew going in that, you know, when some of the trustees say that we can work it out, you know, our feeling is bringing in the outside organization of lacrosse to have 21 or 23 fields and have us have 2 in the corner, you know, that might be being worked out for lacrosse, but that doesn't bode very well for us and for our teams coming in. We had many meetings last year with all the parties. You know, we had a meeting where we were promised this weekend by ourselves. The village was there, lacrosse was there, the park district was there, and, you know, they said it was
you
something they
mean
were,
for this coming?
for this coming year, for 2013.
You know, and I'm sure you're right. I mean, you know, not sitting here with all those minutes.
And it's just, you know, the big thing is,
Oh.
you know, splitting it, lacrosse takes up 97% of the complex, and we have 3. You know, our people get pushed out, the congestion, the cars were parked up against the backstops on the grass. There's no room to, for teams to practice and warm up before games. So, you know, it's just, it's not a good experience to have everything there.
Well, Mike,
And,
Yeah,
you know, and that, this is,
yeah, hang on one second. Manager Ellison, did you, I mean, everybody has sort of said that everybody'd rather have everything they want. I understand that. The same as all the people parked. That's why the idea of the parking, unless you're going to have somebody out there directing traffic and actually managing the parking, it's not going to work. We just got through talking about that with the beer market. It's the same problem. But you said it sounded like everybody was, although not everybody was happy, everybody was willing to give this idea of 3 separate weekends a try.
Well, they said.
And see what
right.
happens, what kind of impact there is to their tournament.
Yeah, each party said they would run their tournament. I talked to Mark Peterson about the Cougar Classic that weekend, which would be actually the 5th through the 7th. It's immediate, I think the 4th is on a Thursday. Then I talked to Chad Gruen, and Trustee Marquardt and I met with him. I've talked to him subsequently. They would have the tournament. Again, as you said, Trustee Cook, they'd prefer to have it the 3rd weekend, but they could do it on the 2nd weekend. They're concerned about the drop-off of teams. And then, of course, as you know, Stingers have indicated that that's their ideal week, is to have it the 3rd week and some exclusivity of the site.
Trustee Schultz.
First off, I have to agree with Trustee Cook with regard to the priorities. Lacrosse, in my mind, is number 3 also. So with that being said, the reason I say that is that we had whatever it was, 8 Stinger teams from town, and we had
8 teams also.
Cougar teams from town that got to play in a quality tournament, and we had 0 teams from lacrosse. I don't really care how big these tournaments get. I just want them to be nice tournaments so that your 8 teams and your 8 teams have a good time, feel good about the competition, and that you make a modicum amount of money to support your programs. With regard to the lacrosse generating revenue for the village, we're not broke. We're not living hand to mouth. We can live with fewer dollars from lacrosse. So I don't see that as a big deal. In fact, if we were living hand to mouth, I'd be looking to you right now, where's my check for the concession, our share for the last couple, 3 years, or whatever the owed amount is. So we're not in that position. We can fund the upkeep of these facilities and keep them top shelf. Now, I also get to the broader economic impact to the community. Apparently, from the research that Mike Allison has done, not all the hotel rooms were filled. The low-end ones were filled, which makes sense. The higher end were not.
Do we actually have higher end?
Well, I'm assuming Hotel Indigo being a boutique
higher price point, I
establishment,
would
yeah, they have a higher
Okay,
price
okay.
point. So, you know,
I would think the extended care is probably, something that would be the higher end because you could stay there. It's a
yeah,
couple of
but the
rooms, right?
extended,
It's immaterial.
well, no.
We only got
Bell-
500 rooms, right? Is anybody?
Yeah, it's
Larry, have you done the head
400
count
and
on that?
something.
What do we got? 500 rooms?
I have the
Yeah.
number.
So,
Yeah.
it's kind of
490 or something.
it's a good thing for town,
Yeah.
but to quantify any of this discussion as
Right.
to who ate at the restaurants and who
Right,
stayed at the
and let me
hotels,
finish.
come on.
Yeah,
you
let
know.
me finish. And the other thing that I know personally, I was told that our fast food places couldn't keep up, and there was a lot of people that walked away and went to other communities during those daytime because there was just too many people
They were
trying to access Jimmy John's or
Yeah.
whoever, Subway or McDonald's, whatever. So, you know, yeah, everybody got a little bump, but not a huge bump. The other thing is, and now this is strictly from a personal level, I have a granddaughter who plays for Mundelein. She never got to the VHAC, but I don't expect her
She a
to.
lacrosse player?
No, she's a softball player.
Oh, okay, well, you got to clarify that,
Excuse me, I shall. She is a softball player, and she didn't make it to VHAC this year, but I wouldn't expect it. She's in a developmental league, but she did get to play at in Vernon Hills at Grosse Pointe. Those fields were adequate, but they weren't anywhere near the quality of VHAC. So when she gets to the level, I want her to be able to play at the VHAC. I have a step-granddaughter who played in your tournament, Stinger, but she never got a sniff of the VHAC because there isn't enough space there, and it was also this whole,
It's on an
we
age- It's on an
overutilized.
age group, remember.
Right, it was the U18s were the only ones that got to play at the VHAC. I think everybody else played at Vernon Township.
No, U16s played,
Yeah.
yeah, 18s played at Deer Path, 16s played at.
Okay, and she's a U14, and U14 and below all played at Vernon Township. She never got a sniff of the VHAC, is where I'm going. So I'm all in favor of skinning
And
a couple more.
everybody wants a sniff of the vehicle.
Exactly. And so to that end, I'm all in favor of skinning more fields
Religious.
because of the fact that, you know, Title IX is a fact, and we need to, you know, recognize that. And I would like to see more fields skinned so that we could have more softball games. If they can only use, you know, one, that means 2, 3, and 4 are not available. I have no problem keeping one as a major league type with the, you know, the whole grass and
This
everything.
seems to be a very highly situational issue here with Trustee Schultz because of his granddaughter. That's the way it's
no,
playing. Come on.
No, what I'm saying is that if
Oh,
we're
my
going to
God.
allow girls softball tournaments, let's optimize the VHAC.
Well, why don't we really cut to the chase? Let's stop screwing around at the Kelly Day Camp, and let's go buy it between us and the Park District, or put it on a referendum, and we can make all kinds of fields out there for softball, baseball, whatever.
That's not a bad thought.
Well, you know,
Bought it when it was for sale and we didn't.
well, sometimes we're, well, we.
Maybe for sale right now.
In the meantime, we
No,
have to deal with
So,
2013.
in closing, let me
All
finish.
right, in closing, okay, I yield to Trustee Schultz.
These are the key points that I wanted to make, was that the economic impact will be better for the entire community over the 3 weekends. I think we have some
Right.
agreement for 2013. I'd like to see us pursue that schedule, and if there's anything we can do to make
Right.
the VHAC a better facility for a larger group of players, I'm all in favor of that.
Okay,
I'm done.
hold the citizens' comments for now. Here, now, I'm going to pose this question to trustees Schultz and Cook, who obviously weighed in favor of, you know, softball and baseball. What if lacrosse comes up with 8 teams, and they're from kids from Vernon Hills next
I
year.
would still be in favor of three.
Would you change your comments?
I would
you
still-
change your thought process?
I would still be in favor of 3 separate weekends. If you're
That's
talking,
fine.
if you're, excuse me, if you're talking about economic impact on the community, 3 separate weekends of more balanced economic impact is going to be greater, because then people will not be turned away because of the extra heavy rushes. On the weekend that you bring in 2, you actually, I would assume that your gross income would actually go down by overusing something, because your people are going to go elsewhere and not stay in town. It would be better for us to have it be 3. And perhaps I would change my, but the reality is they are not. And the reality is that everybody has situationally agreed to tentatively give this a try, and let's see what happens. We don't have.
I don't necessarily have a problem with that. What I have a problem with is, what if, how would you guys make your same statements tonight if there was 8 teams that
Then-
wanted to play lacrosse?
then they would- then they
we'd
would
all
be-
pay everybody on that,
then they'd be
right?
fine, absolutely.
Then you'd all be good.
Absolutely.
Correct.
If I can correct
That would
something
change.
that
Well, that could change in a heartbeat.
we're talking about is.
What if
I could
soccer
tell you-
wants to play? What are we going to do then? I coached soccer for 8 years, spring and fall. So, my son played, my, daughter played. So maybe at some point we want to throw soccer into the mix. And I mean,
the
soccer's more
same weekend?
popular.
4 weekends.
And we'd have, yeah.
Yeah.
Here you go.
Do we got any no, in all honesty, do we have any double weekends now of other sports playing at
Absolutely.
the facility when baseball's going on? There must be.
We have 3.
Sometimes I
different sports
drive
to
up there,
take
it's a
in.
beehive of activity, which is great.
Yeah.
And there's no
But
strings
what we're-
attached.
If
But
I
we're
might correct
drawing
something.
the number of people at the time, in any of these tournaments, there, you've all been there at different times. It's different playing games, house league, different things, the mix, than having 2 full-bore tournaments at the site. at the same time. We've all witnessed that.
That's why we're here. That's why we had our discussions. And if these gentlemen are correct, we don't have any of our discussion minutes from last year. We met multiple times on this. So,
Right.
Mike, what's the answer to Scott Commodore's statement?
If I were them, I would have left the room thinking that the village made a commitment to provide them exclusivity of the VHAC for that 3rd week. That
For which
lacrosse
year?
for 2013.
Okay.
Lacrosse was going to arrange a different week in 2013.
And I don't have a
That's
problem with
how
that
it
at
was
all, because
left
I
in
was
my
at all
mind.
these meetings.
Right.
So, I mean, again, though, I'm not sitting here with the drawing. There was a lot of detail that was laid out in an attempt to, appease everybody. But with that said, yeah, I don't have a problem, let's try it.
Yeah,
But
it-
1, 2, 3.
I don't think.
And if
I
you
could
get 8
correct-
teams, I want to know, and I want to meet them all at a meeting.
If
Mark,
I
go
could
ahead.
correct something as it relates to baseball, and if I could sort of go to the email that Mark Peterson sent you, sent Mike Allenson. What he said is based on what we thought the priorities were, that if baseball had to go that first weekend, that we would do it. But it's certainly not baseball's preference. And as a proof statement, I'll give you what happened this year. Because of timing, we were this year over the same dates as that 4th of July weekend, or what was perceived from a baseball tournament standpoint. And for baseball, they lost about 30 teams this past year. So we went from using the pinwheel, using fields 1 through 4, 5, 6, the varsity softball field, the varsity baseball field, and both Stevenson's fields. And we actually eliminated those 2 Stevenson's fields because we lost that many teams. So if, let's say, Lacrosse America wasn't there at all, we would certainly have it on that second weekend instead of the first weekend. So a lot of it is what goes back to what the priority is. But I'll
if you
also
want the second, we'll tell Lacrosse the first, and that's it.
if
know.
we had our preference, that would be it. On the other hand, I'll reinforce what Mark Peterson said. If the feeling is different, then we will be team players. We would you know, go forward, take that first weekend, knowing that it's going to hit us and make the best of it.
But what
All
I'm
right.
saying is, find out if it hit that.
Well, we already know that it impacts us because from 2011 to 2012, we lost about 30 teams. We believe majoritively because of this firecracker tournament that attracts the same teams that we attract. You know,
Right.
it's a similar community.
Well, you never
of-
know
of
who's gonna
teams
do
that
a
play.
tournament, right?
So
You know.
that was the impact to us.
And I did check with Lacrosse America. First weekend of July is worse than the second week of July. Their priority would be third week of July best, second week not as bad, or not as bad as the first week. First week is is worse than the second.
Nobody wants to play on the fourth week.
Well, I think in these, I'm stepping out of my knowledge level here, but everyone tells me teams fall off like crazy. I've heard that statement over and over and over again, that by the end of July, everyone's gone.
Play the first weekend.
So going to August.
Well,
What I'm getting?
right.
Or the fourth.
But
Yeah.
do you
Right.
agree? Is that what you're hearing? Nobody wants to play the
No,
first weekend?
lacrosse.
Well,
The first-
ideally.
The first or the
Can we
fourth,
do
Barb.
second, third, fourth?
Nobody
As
wants
far
the
as
fourth weekend.
softball goes,
The fourth.
the second week in July is a big tournament they call the Metro. And our teams have got to play in that tournament in order to play in the Nationals in August. So the only weekend that we can play is the third, and we've played that the last 10 years.
Yeah, the second weekend is set by, what
What about
USSA
the
sets
fourth
that for the
weekend?
Metro. I believe.
USA, USSSA, and
Yeah,
ASA.
USAA, yeah.
Well,
yeah.
is there any issues like that with baseball?
Yeah, the biggest issue for baseball is in Vernon Hills, our kids play multiple sports. Really, the only break that exists between football and baseball, for families that want to take their holiday and have a little time together as a small community, is that week that they have between July and August. So that's something that is not very popular
Right.
with the families, and we have to be conscious of that. And, you know, we could not go into
All right, well,
August.
yeah, okay. Well, with that said, why don't we have closure on this? How many board members are comfortable just having the softball on the third week?
Well, I'm very comfortable with the schedule as laid out, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, how about, maybe we got to flip-flop
But we got to flip flop
the baseball, but is everybody comfortable with softball having the third weekend or the same weekend as the summer celebration?
Yes.
I'll poll the board. Gene,
Yes.
No.
Mike, Barb,
I don't see it, yes.
okay. Trustee Schultz,
Yes.
trustee Hebda,
Yes.
trustee Cook?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So obviously you got a majority of the board. So now eliminating that, you know, what are we going to do with baseball versus lacrosse?
I want to give baseball that second week.
And put lacrosse first week.
What do you guys make off of your baseball? I mean, your own tournament.
Yeah, including concessions, sorry about saying that, probably about $20,000.
Okay, and then what did you guys make off lacrosse?
It was not nearly as significant as we thought, probably about $1,500.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, you're
that's
second.
Yeah.
Come on. Yeah,
It was
that's
food service. That was,
really.
yeah.
Wait, we spent what? About 40 Gs
46.
Okay.
on fencing
Baseball is
and
gonna be
and
second.
Well, and
Well, wait.
labor, mostly labor.
labor.
Is that good
Okay.
for you, that second week?
We could use that second week. and that
Okay,
would-
that's fine then. And then, you know, we're gonna have to tell lacrosse, hey,
This is what it is.
because
Well-
what do we get paid? Did we get paid 10 grand?
Yes,
We did, huh?
yes, we did.
Well, why don't we just give it to
much
these
does it
two
cost 'em?
until the lacrosse kids, we got 8 teams, and then everything will be copacetic,
Baseball
you know?
and all that too. So that's in there.
Anyway, okay,
fence is
we
smaller.
got closure. We'll tell the lacrosse guy, you know, hey, you got what, the 4th of
But
July
we would also be
weekend?
willing to go to the baseball board if you like and see if they can make that. We want to work with you if we
If you
can. I'm
guys
just
want
telling
to
you what
talk to
works.
them, that's fine,
Yeah.
but, you know, we're going to go with, you know, individual weekends
Could
and see how
lacrosse
that
go week-
works.
Do they have a conflict with the tournament the 26th?
No.
Right, they go
Well,
either.
yeah, let me just say this, does it matter, and I can't speak to this, you know, with any certainty, but if lacrosse says they can't do it the first week, as I mentioned to you, they said that's that's worse, does that matter?
Was the 26th out
We
for
could lose
lacrosse?
them.
I can probably tell
If
you
we
this.
lose it.
If you end up doing it on the 1st, say goodbye to lacrosse. They won't be here at all because they need it for the tournament. They're using it for
All right,
money.
well,
So-
all right, let me
so
ask the
just say-
question then.
Just say goodbye to the cross, have them do it,
Well,
and we pay.
Which
you
goes back to
$240,000.
Mr. Peterson's
Can you
original
guys-
statement, which was that if the only way this works, we will take one for the team. That
Well,
was
and
the premise.
The good
of-
news
of-
is you're 8 teams from town that are supporting this through
Right.
all their efforts here, either as volunteers or as taxpayers. They're getting to play, and they'll get to play in a quality tournament because you'll put one together.
Right.
That's a quality tournament. It may not be as big as
For us,
you
it's just
could.
economic impact.
Right. And
I appreciate.
Mike,
the
what
fact
did
that you
lacrosse
are
say
being
about the
very
26th?
flexible and willing to do
Pardon me?
whatever.
Yeah, we understand that. We understand. As you say, our kids love using the VHAC.
Yep.
We know it's a
Yeah.
gift.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I can't express how appreciative we are. And if that's the only way it works, which was the basis of Mr. Peterson's email, if that's the only way
Well,
it
my
works.
question is, could you guys make it work with lacrosse?
Double, yeah, could you both go?
Well,
No.
I think,
No,
if-
they
I don't
can't.
think they could
Baseball
either.
can't.
Mark Peterson and I talked,
Celebration weekend.
it is a big tournament, that lacrosse tournament,
Yeah,
it's,
that's a monster.
That's why it's
It's a
set up on its
mopsy.
own
And
weekend.
and one of the things that impacted us on is
Lacrosse could make it work with softball. They could make it work.
Everybody's not gonna get the same weekend every year.
No, I don't know
We gotta
about
think
that.
about
Well,
that.
yeah, okay, well,
If you
Well,
guys do it
well,
this
also
year,
the-
then we'll talk
but
about
the issue is that would be hard even for you guys to do.
correct. It would be very, very difficult.
Okay.
It is workable with the Stingers tournament, though.
But I still, Manager Allison, did lacrosse say that the 26th was out?
you know, I'm trying to think if I asked him
Can
the
I
last
ask-
week.
I'll
Yeah.
throw in there. You're saying the last week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last week, no, because last week, Dave's not here, he's up north, but the thing is, it's gonna, the grounds have to be seated, because after that is going to be soccer
Football.
and football.
Yeah,
And you have to have a break for
And
those
probably
fields.
lacrosse too. Because
Yes.
lacrosse
Right.
is not fair weather like
That's what I'm saying.
softball
So
and
the-
baseball.
so the
We
fourth-
can play lacrosse
So the
like
fourth
all year
weekend in
long.
July is out of the
Well,
question.
let's go artificial turf, and then we wouldn't have to worry about it. Just kidding.
We're trying.
Well, the football league's already found out they can't play there on Sunday because what, some soccer league is just using the high school football team. All right,
Yeah, if you could just let us know after you talk to Lacrosse America, you know, whether that's workable for them, and that would be our preference. If not, as I said, we want it to work for everybody.
all right, well, so let's, contact Lacrosse America and tell them this is the way it is. And then,
Well, and the way it is they have the first weekend of July. If they can't make it work, they can't make it work. The
Wait, is everybody
Cougars,
agreeing with that?
Well,
well,
That's not what.
I mean,
yeah,
What Mark's saying.
well, no,
you
To
really,
recap
just
is,
add- I
if
wanna-
from our perspective, rather than lose the significant piece of business that trustee Marquardt talked about and have the village, whatever impact it has, suffer that, then Mr. Peterson's letter was clear, is if that's the case, we don't want that to happen, then we'll take one for the team.
well, why don't you discuss it with your board?
Yeah.
And can you get back to Mike in the next day or two?
Absolutely.
well, but wait, you all have opinions about this. I should bring it back to you on October 2nd then. I don't want to, unless you want to give me clear
Hold the
direction
board on
tonight.
something like this?
Well, I could,
You
yeah,
know,
but
I mean-
there's different opinions on it.
You know what?
Lots of opinions.
And I'm going
No
to
matter
get
what,
like,
leave it here.
This is not, is this truly a health, safety, and welfare thing?
everything in a
It
hat
truly
and pull
might
it
be,
out.
It
might
may
be a
per-
safety because of the traffic
it
issue
may
and crowd
pertain to
control.
my health, safety,
That's
and
okay.
welfare.
Yeah, you're well compensated and you're fully insured.
Yeah, thank
So with that said, I mean, you know,
have to bring
this is a fun thing, this is a great thing, and this is gonna be the final word on this. It's wonderful to have this problem. We have these discussions, it seems like all the time.
Yeah.
The VHAC, it's like we created a bane upon the town, you know? The VHAC, everybody wants a VHAC, and that's why it was built. Because a lot of us went through, you know, the Park District programs, and this was an opportunity, you know, to secure a 165-acre site for everybody's use. And it's wonderful to drive up there some days during the high school. They're all playing on every field up there, you know? And that's why what it was intended for.
Right. And if I could just address Trustee Schultz, there are a lot of 8-year-old girls in town who live in Vernon Hills who get to use VHAC because all house baseball and softball is using VHAC. We make sure in scheduling that that's the case. So it may not apply to
That's
somebody in
why we got
Mundelein,
lights there.
but our Vernon Hills 8-year-old girls do get to use VHAC.
They get to use it. The tournament is what I was alluding to, and the tournament use was very limited.
Here.
And so for that reason, I'm kind of in favor of let's see what we can do
I feel like
about
I'm
it.
overseeing a peace summit here. Would you guys shake hands on TV? Well, you know, it'd be a nice gesture.
We're all the same family. I mean, we're all
that's good.
VHCYAA,
Yeah.
the same organization.
Okay.
That's what,
and
so,
All right.
so what I'm going to communicate in this email, it'll be even more confusing than the ones I sent today, I'm sure. But it would be something like, the board has agreed tentatively that the Stingers would go with the third weekend of July. Then Mark and Mark are going to have a discussion among the other people in baseball about first week versus second week. And I'll mention to lacrosse, you can definitely have the first weekend of July. And I'll see Chad's reaction. He said that's worse, but we'll find out if I'll put it in
bad
writing.
is worse,
And
yeah.
but the baseball
our
people are
preference.
still talking about it. So I'll leave it kind of open. I'll hear from Mark. We'll talk, and now I know I'm taking a few days of vacation the end of this week, but I'll talk to you at the beginning of next week. But I'll send that out tomorrow morning, and then we'll get some feedback, and then I'll talk to all of you.
Well,
And hopefully I'll get 4 of you to
I
agree.
hate to be a fly in the ointment to all that wonderful thing that you just said, but since we already did the lacrosse and Stingers one time, and there were logistically some problems, could that not be worked out and that still be a possibility? Then everybody gets the weekend that they want. It was the parking issue on that third weekend, so get together and
Well,
figure
it's
out
not
how to
only a
make the
parking
parking
issue,
better.
it's an issue with staff.
Yeah.
You know, as far as
Well,
how much time, how many officers do
Could
we?
we move summer celebration to the
fourth-
second weekend?
or
The
do it to
second
the
weekend
fourth.
or the fourth weekend, and we don't have that all on that third weekend.
We could move summer, yeah, it's true, we could move summer celebration any weekend we want.
That's right.
Yeah,
So, and that-
well, but remember, we have a whole bunch of volunteers. I'd want to talk to them because they're the ones who fuel a lot of the work toward it.
Yeah, so that's 14.
But then these guys
Right,
want to
part
be
of
the
it.
same weekend as summer celebration.
That's it.
Yeah.
No,
No?
No,
You
but-
still want to be the third?
yes, we can't be the second because of.
Oh, I understand that.
Yeah, but.
You know what, I won't rule that out.
But the other thing that, you know, make sure everybody understands is that, we want the whole, we want the whole, VHAC. We don't want to be stuck in the corner, which we
No, I
were this year.
understand that.
And I was there on Saturday. I don't know how many of you people were there on Saturday.
mean, we can
It was,
take out the
it was an unsafe nightmare. It was terrible. And, you know, we were told we could park in Mitsubishi. We weren't there on Saturday. There was no softball teams there on Saturday. I went to Mitsubishi, it was about 85% full. So if we brought 200 cars there, which would have been what we would have, what would have happened?
Well,
Would've
we
been
would
a
need to do, to make that work, was, we would have to either get involved ourselves or make sure with Lacrosse America, as well as the Stingers, that those lots were all policed. I mean, and really heavily, you know, and somehow set up a system. Softball, can't park here. Lacrosse, yeah, fine. You know,
No.
do something like, and
And-
become dictators of
Okay.
parking lots.
As far as
you know.
changing the date for summer celebration, I guess that is our prerogative.
Mm-hmm.
As far as, you know, you having the third date, I think I'm clear as far as supporting that. And then baseball's either gonna be the first or second, and lacrosse is either gonna be the first or they're not gonna be lacrosse. Until we get those 8 teams and the parents are demanding lacrosse. And then soccer will come next.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. So, is yeah, you know what?
I can tell you.
That's the way
I've
I
gone
want
through
the
it.
memo to go out if the rest of the board supports it. Talk to Lacrosse America and say, hey, you know, you really want the second one, you got the first one.
How bad is it going to affect you? Let's find that out.
I don't know. You know, I mean, if you get that many people, how many people, Mike, did you tell me today come into town for Lacrosse America?
In fact, they had 8,000 people.
How many?
8,000.
8,000. How many you get for baseball, do you think?
Not nearly 8,000.
Yeah, do you think you get 8,000 for lacrosse? I mean, is that,
Lacrosse is.
Well, yeah, you know, that's the number he put on it. I mean, there was
But-
1,000 room nights for
Right.
hotels.
yeah.
So
Well,
you
the
got to figure
reality
they're
is,
packing it. Yeah.
our hotels aren't getting all that business
Well, sure,
any
certainly.
weekend. I mean,
Right.
you know,
And the
got-
8,000 number is all the more proof that nothing else can go on the same
Right.
weekend as that lacrosse weekend.
if it's remotely close. But I agree.
Yeah.
No, you just had, this year what we had is basically 8,000 people. In fact, the girls softball was at close to 2,000,
3,000.
3,000.
That's a lot of people.
And summer celebration going on.
Yeah, I know, yeah. Okay, we're going lacrosse, first weekend, you guys second, third, Stingers. Let's leave it at that. Don't even talk to your board. You can talk to them, but, you know. All right.
So, and that's where
Well-
you guys
To
all
eliminate
rest.
lacrosse, so you
Yeah,
don't have to
I
worry.
want to find, I want to know
Well, Haley,
that.
maybe-
Before we
You-
make any,
I'll put it this way. I'll leave it a little vague. Sorry, Mayor, if that's okay. And he can reply to that as far as does it work? And then you guys on the second can decide, well, if he says absolutely not, we can't have lacrosse, or we're going to talk to the park district about doing it wherever, Deer Path and different parks, then obviously you'll see all that. I'll send it on to you.
right.
Okay?
And what would be the financial loss if we lost the lacrosse?
Well, we would, direct costs, we'd save money.
We'd save $36,000.
Well,
Don't we
yeah.
have an investment in fencing? Didn't we buy the fence?
So Larry's hoping we don't have any tournaments in
Baseball,
town.
too.
Yeah.
There's fences.
One more time, Michael? No, Mr. Markwart.
The fences that were bought were not just for the soccer, they were for all, for baseball,
for
for all,
lacrosse.
for
Okay.
lacrosse
Yeah,
rather,
right,
for all of it.
Okay.
Which is a first-time expense. It's just like,
Right.
we
Right.
wanted to open,
Yeah,
in
that's
fact,
why
we just
I-
spent for a
Yeah,
trailer
so you
here.
really can't consider the 46.
Well, I think you take,
It's some number
Yeah.
less than that.
It's
you
gonna be
take
10
about 15K out of there. Out of the 46, take 15K. Ongoing costs would be probably like 30 grand or something.
Okay, so we spent 30 to make 10.
Yeah.
That's the number.
And then how much do we spend on the
But-
baseball weekend and overtime? How much did we spend on, softball when it was by itself? And I'm not asking you to
Yeah,
have that.
yeah, I
but,
don't have that.
you know,
But,
we're not, we're not in it to make
Yeah.
money. And be honest with you, the hotels, for all I know, people come into town to visit their family and they get 400 rooms a weekend. Just people coming in and out of town for nothing, not these tournaments, but, find out 4 weekends in June. How do they compare to these 3 weekends? Probably the same. Okay, is there a motion to adjourn the board meeting and go into closed session and discuss litigation and personnel and, okay, volunteer fathers, have a nice night.
Thank you.
Motion adjourned.
All right,
Seconded.
And I don't even have a trial, and I am a
motion and a second, roll call.
Trustee Hedda,
Aye.
Trustee Cook,
Aye.
Trustee Markwart,
Aye.
Trustee Schultz,
Aye.
Trustee Schwartz,
Aye.
Trustee Williams.
Okay, thank you and good night. We're going into closed.
Totally confused.